What's goody in the hoodie? It's your man Nico Boogie, and we got another Sunday edition of The Truth. Um, Today I'm gonna switch it up a little bit and talk about DC characters. As y'all know, I was in a live with my two mentors, Theo Butler. I ain't just saying. I ain't saying. I just saying. And Be Real with D Real. Shout out to them. Thank you for letting me be on your channel, Daryl. You really helped me, and I'm gonna stay strong and do my due diligence and doing my homework on these black characters. Today, we are going to talk about missed opportunities that the DC universe had, specifically within the ARROWVERSE, and that comes in the form of Black Lightning and with John Diggle, played by David Ramsey. When I first came into watching the Arrowverse, I wasn't really fond of it because I remember when they had the trailers for Green Arrow, which is Arrow, with Stephen Amell, and I saw how it kind of was a dark centered story, and I remember seeing that it was Batman. They didn't have any Batman villains. Well, I'll get to the Batman villains later on, but in this specific realm of television, you had the end of the well, not really the end of, it was in the middle of the sci-fi era of TV, where you had TV shows like The Tomorrow People with Stephen Amell's cousin, Robbie Amell, who played Firestorm in The Flash. You had Push with Chris Evans. You had Jumper with Christian Hayden and Samuel L. Jackson. And you had all these, and when the Arrowverse came about, you had the beginning TV show, which is Arrow, and they slowly started building a story arc of who Oliver Queen was and how he came. Basically, he was another Batman, but in a different story, in a different light. You basically use all of the Batman villains that was basically Bruce Wayne's villains. You had Deathstroke, you had the Suicide Squad, which the only tease they really didn't show. Well, yeah, they had Task Force X, and I probably have to go watch the entire first two seasons because that's what they had. But going about saying about how they introduced the Arrowverse, you had they introduced Barry Allen in Arrow, and that went on to become the Flash. You had Grant Gustin playing Flash, and he ended up going to his own TV show. And you see how they were taking on the formula of starting to build their own individual TV shows, just like the MCU has their own individual franchises with certain superheroes. And so, getting to the latter part of the Arrowverse with the Flash, it started with the Flash. But well, no, it didn't start with the Flash. It started with Arrow. You had John Diggle, who was a bodyguard to Oliver Queen, and Oliver Queen eventually, well, I'm sorry, no, John Diggle eventually discovered that Oliver Queen was called the Hood, later on known as Green Arrow, and John Diggle, who was a Marine, he's a Marine sniper, but I think either he was a commando or a Marine sniper. I might be wrong. Theo, correct me on that if I'm wrong. But so you have a situation where John Diggle, you have the Black Wally West for the New 52 version, and you have Vixen, which they did a pretty good job showing that in Green Arrow in the Arrowverse. And then you have Black Lightning. You have, and also Mr. Terrific, which they made gay, which is stupid. And I look at the difference between the MCU and DC, DC and the MCU, and how they're more inclusive with the LGBT at basically the CW, because the guy who ran the CW was a strong advocate for the LGBT community. And so you have that, and you have the difference of how they portrayed their characters. For the longest time, you did not have Marvel doing anything involving with the LGBT until that very person who was an executive, a white lady, comes out and says, "Yeah, I think we're ready for our very first LGBT character," and that just opened the floodgates for more stuff to be politicized and basically going away from storytelling. Now everything's about politics, which that's not what our children need to see. But getting back to what I was talking about, um, I mentioned this in the live with Be Real with D Real and Theo, where a very huge missed opportunity was with was with Black Lightning first and John Diggle. Theo mentioned that John Diggle, who is an adoptive son to his adoptive father, whose last name is Stewart, who's a general in the army, he is basically John Stewart in the CW's universe. And one thing I really did not like was you actually had him get ready to be Green Lantern, and you just blatantly slap us in the face by saying, "Nah, he don't want to do that." No, he accepts that responsibility and takes it on. Yes, he's away from Earth, but he goes back to Earth to his family. And you had it to where he was just all of a family man. He's only guardian and stuff like that. And that's not who John Stewart really is. John Stewart is a boy warrior. He's just like, he's a mirrored version of Hal Jordan, but like they both come from the military. And that's what I like about these comics is they tie it to real life events with the military and how disciplined they are. And that's why the Green Lantern Corps, the Guardians, chose Hal Jordan and John Stewart, was because they were strong up here in the mind, because that's what it takes, strong willpower. And one thing I'll say, and I'll probably make a separate video of this, there could have been a Green Lantern series out already. Either if it was with the CW or with HBO Max, which I believe HBO would have done a better job, because if you take Zack Snyder's vision, or even go back to 2011 when they introduced Hal Jordan, but we know we don't talk about that. But and that movie set up a sequel that never happened. You had Sinestro put on the yellow ring of the yellow ring of fear, and that was in the post-credit scene. And so I was like, okay, you do that, but you say you set us up for a sequel, but we never get one. That was in 2011. That was almost 11 years. That was 10 plus years ago. So now it's about to be 2023, and we still haven't gotten a sequel, which pretty glad it wasn't, because that was during a time where they were just making movies to see how it would speak to audiences, and they just pandered the crap out of Green Lantern 2011. And that was during the time where they were making games that went with the movies. And I will say that when I played the game, it wasn't... I played on PS3, and I also played on DS. But it wasn't really a game that spoke to me, because when I'm thinking of a Green Lantern game, I'm thinking open world. I'm thinking I get to fly through space and go to different places. And all they had was you flying different levels and whatnot, almost like an arcade game. And it wasn't really appealing. And I played that more than once. And then I played it on the hardest level, but it wasn't really appealing to me. But back to the subject at hand. Missed opportunities with the ARROWVERSE. You have Black Lightning, which ran for 4 seasons. And what I really found astounding to me is you had a young black actor that played Painkiller. And before he even became Painkiller, I was personally thinking that he was going to become Static Shock, because he looked perfect for the role. The dude knows martial arts. He's a young martial artist, and I give props to him. This dude can look like he can whoop a lot of ass. But like I said, missed opportunities. And I was thinking how Static Shock could be segued into Freeland, have him deal with the tensions, because basically Black Lightning was nothing but, I don't want to say it was a political stunt, but the way that they I'd say, put the realm of black people dealing with police and how Black Lightning grew up in the '60s and had to deal with stuff like that. Um, he basically basically the black superhero version of Bill Cosby, and the reason why I say that is because he's a teacher. He goes and has two daughters, which are also superheroes, and they are showing how the black family is a structure that has to be have a father figure, and that's one of the best. Out besides all the stories that they told with the villains and whatnot, the structure that we saw was a black family together, and they were basically empowering each other, going through hard times, empowering each other to get through certain circumstances. And you take John Diggle, who was a Stewart, John Stewart basically, and Theo mentioned that what's the dude's name? Uh, Jefferson Pierce is married to John Stewart's sister, and I forgot the name of the lady, but yeah. So you have John Stewart, which if they went and did and had John Diggle become Green Lantern, you could have had the best crossover with Green Lantern and Black Lightning in the crossover events that you had with all the shows when Black Lightning came on TV. And the only legit crossover you had was when Black Lightning had Crisis on Infinite Earths, where you had the Monitor bring all of these heroes that needed to come together throughout the multiverse and bring them to each other. You could have had John Diggle go over to instead of being instead of having him connect to the Flash, you could have had Black Lightning connected to John Diggle, and that we would have seen that. And I don't understand how Black Lightning is on a different Earth. I really don't understand that. Why do you have Black Lightning on a different Earth? Why he's not on the same Earth as Barry Allen, as Supergirl, as all those? Well, Supergirl was on an Earth of her own, but after Crisis on Infinite Earths, you had all those Earths meshed together at the dawn of time, at the very end of Crisis on Infinite Earths. And so after that, you had Olive Queen pass away. He became Spectre and did all that jazz. And so now it's a situation where, like I said, missed opportunities. Going to the Flash, you had Wally West, who got his powers. Well, first we saw him in the Rebirth costume, which they should have never used that. They should have used the costume from here. I got y'all right here. Should have used the costume from New 52, because that's when they brought the Black Wally West in. And let's see, New 52 Wally West. New 52 Wally West looked just like this. Let's see if this will adjust. Can y'all see that? Come on now. Let me do it like this. Alright. Yeah. New 52 Wally West looked just like that. There was no anything looking like this. You had New 52 Wally West looking like this, and we end up getting this is an edited version. This is an edited version of what it should have looked like in the Flash instead of what it looks like. Yeah, that's what it should have looked like. That's what Wally West should have looked like in the Flash TV show. Instead, we get the Rebirth costume of what Wally West looks like in the Flash, and it's nothing against how the costume designer did it, but let's see. So we got this right here. That's one picture of what he looks like. And then we have the other one where he looks like this, like that. So we have that, and here goes a better picture right here. Wally West looks like that for the Flash TV show, and it comes to a situation to where he never did a crossover with Black Lightning. Wally West never met Black Lightning. They only had, I think, in one episode of The Flash where they said when he was beginning that he was faster than Barry Allen. Not to where he was faster than Barry Allen, period, because at one point, Barry Allen, and even they flipped it. In the comics, Wally West goes to the Speed Force, is stuck in the Speed Force. And they did that in season 3 when they were facing Savitar, but it didn't come to a situation to where when he came out, he was faster. They just had him at the level that he was at before. And when he went away, he did the whole namaste thing and gained his speed like that by coming back, by creating a stronger connection to the Speed Force. And he was able to do these things with his hands where he created Speed Force constructs. And so when Barry goes in and he's in there for a couple of years, you have them tease Wally West becoming the main Flash, and they could have used that Wally West as for a whole season, developing his character and how he takes on the responsibility of becoming the main protector of Central, not Central City, yeah, Central City, and you could have had that. You could have had a whole bunch of things because you set up a love interest for Wally West, which is what's the name? Oh shoot. It's Harrison Wells' daughter from Earth 2, Jessie Quick. You have that. You have it to where they break up with her. And I understand that you have all these situations to where actors don't want to play the character anymore. And that's the same thing that happened with the, his name is Kenan Lonsdale. And I don't understand how people can say they don't want to continue with a role because you're basically limiting yourself. You have a black role that we talking about black representation. That was a positive black representation right there that could have been carried on. And you have Vixen, who was in the ARROWVERSE. She was literally the main love interest, one of the main love interests of John Stewart. You had Hawk Girl, who was love interest of John Stewart. And you just continue that. You got rid of Hawk Girl. Like, wow. You got rid of that. And that was in the very first season of DC's Legends of Tomorrow. But go back to Black Lightning. That show should be still showing right now. Because if you'd have brought Static Shock to Freeland, you could have had Black Lightning going to Static Shock, Virgil Hawkins, and teaching him how to use his powers. And to the point where you had a couple black actors that could have played him. You introduced one in, I think it was the 4th season, and he was what's the word I'm looking for? He was a I'm going to say technomaniac because he was able to control technology. And so that actor that played that role, he could have been Static Shock. But once again, missed opportunities because it comes to a situation to where ratings would have went up, especially us watching it because we see a black male mentoring a younger black man. And that's what we need. That's positive representation. So, when it comes to certain things like that, we always have to be mindful of what should have been. Not what could have been, but what should have been. And I'll make another video on this because I'm going off the fly here. But you have, let's see, what else? You had John Diggle, who briefly put on the hood Now let's see, John Diggle Arrow. This right here. You had John Diggle as green as what is it? No, not Arsenal. Spartan. That's the name. Spartan. This is John Diggle Spartan. You have him. Now, we all know he's a Stewart, so John Diggle Green Arrow in the Arrow suit, which he really shouldn't have been. That was, I'll say that was kind of disrespectful to him in a certain way. You have him as the Arrow right here, which, if y'all can see that really doesn't really fit him. And the whole time he wasn't even doing the same thing as he had a crossbow. He really couldn't do this whole bow and arrow thing as Oliver Queen could do. So he had a crossbow because he's proficient with a firearm. He's a marksman, so he's able to do that. And if you can tell me that if he's supposed to be Green Lantern, and I've seen so many iterations, we have art like that. John Diggle is Green Lantern, and here goes another one. John Diggle, Green Lantern. And like I said, it's missed opportunities. You could have had him do his iconic. You could have put this in the TV shows. You could have had him create the construct if you guys made him Green Lantern. And yes, I'm talking to UCW. You could have had him do his significant sniper rifle construct, and that would have made history. And that's like, it's funny to me how me as a black person can be young black creative can tell y'all how y'all can make money off of doing this comic accurate stuff, and then y'all just throw it to the wolves like it don't matter. And so there's a whole bunch of things that you guys could have done with DC, and it's like people aren't knowledgeable enough to go pick up a book and do the research on these characters, because it's not that hard. I mean, yes, it's going to take time to develop the work, put in the work to put everything together, but it's all worth it. It's worth taking the time to find the right actor, trying to find the right story that you want to adapt and put it on screen, because we have the technology, we have the resources, we have this, that, and the third, and we know what to do with it. It just takes the willpower and the work ethic. But like I said before, I got more coming, y'all. Thank y'all for rocking with me. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will see y'all on the next one. Love y'all.